For Gina? Or?
Oh, you can start.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another book club. I'm excited to see all the happy faces this morning on a sunny day. I'm just going to go over some of the rules that we talked about last time just to make this a really good experience again. So just as last time, we're going to have about an hour for our book club today. We will set aside about 10-12 minutes per question. We'll have 4 questions again. Obviously, everybody is more than welcome to share any and all thoughts that they have, but we do set about a 2-minute timer for each question, or per person, just to make sure everybody actually has a chance to talk and share their thoughts. You are not required to share anything, but we would obviously love to hear your thoughts on everything. We will be recording this for all of our people that unfortunately can't be here today. So we'll have our camera set up over there. And before we really start diving into everything, don't feel like you have to have read all the things before we get started. We try our best. I'm sure everybody got to read some of the information, and that'll be just fine. Also, don't feel like you have to remember every single part. I know there was a lot of information, a lot of heavy, especially deep dive into proteins and amino acids. It's a lot. I don't think it's necessary to remember all the things, so don't feel like you have to. It is okay.
There's no test at the end.
There is not a test, I promise.
Pay attention.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quiz.
And then and then as always, just to make sure that we have a good quality recording and everybody can hear all the great things you all have to share, we have the little microphone again. So just make sure you get the microphone before you share your awesome thoughts. Okay, so with that, we will just start with our first question. So Lyon describes muscle as an organ of longevity. What made this idea convincing or not for you personally?
Obviously, when you don't exercise,
Okay.
you get weaker. Yeah. Did you not hear that?
The video went up.
Yeah, go ahead and just repeat it if you don't mind.
Well, I think it's obvious, at least it has been for me, if I'm not exercising and doing what I need to be doing, then I start feeling weaker in my muscles. And, you know, you try to do things and then, not so much.
Mm-hmm. So you really notice that in your day-to-day.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a lived experience with that woke me up eventually because I had had so many body traumas and was so immobilized for 18 months, almost 2 years. I really deteriorated. I'm a shell of a person that I was 5 years ago. And when I read this portion of the book, I was just amazed at how comprehensive it was. Nutrition is my background. And I mean, this lady has done a deep dive into those amino acids and how important they are. And one of the things that I learned to do was increase my protein. I go to a homeopath who's a dear friend, and she said, "You're not getting enough leucine. You need to eat more beef." And it was a game changer for me. And so I'm enjoying this book so much because it's what I need. I mean, it's just like a God thing, you know. Wow, this is really increasing my knowledge. And I'm probably going more than 2 minutes, but.
No, you're not.
You're good.
Oh, great.
I thought it was interesting how it talked about how muscle and the strength and protein is responsible for, like, what is it, over 40 other things in your body that they do. Like, I don't think any of us think about all that protein and all that does in our body.
Yeah, I agree. I was kind of amazed by that too. We all here like eat protein, and initially it was like all about like, oh, bodybuilders that talk about protein, but truly understanding in how many processes it is involved, and hormone production and like muscle production and like everything that's going on in our body. Honestly, that amazed me too.
too.
Sorry, we'll just pass the mic.
So one concern I have with the protein recommendations are the health of the kidney. And she does have a small section about some research that was done that said it doesn't. I would say, given the results I've had in various blood tests, it does seem to have an impact, and in my case, not a positive one. So I mean, I have to talk with the doctors more about it and whatnot. But for me, it's a cautionary note about the kidneys as we age. The kidney function does decline. If your blood work's good, great, go for it. But it's just a concern.
So you're saying too much protein?
Too much protein. It's got a reputation as being tough on kidneys, digestion, and the kidneys. But I mean, if your kidney throughput's really good, it shouldn't be a problem. If it's not really good, it can be a problem.
I feel like for most of us, I'll just talk really loud. The amount of protein we get, like I am trying really hard to get enough protein, and like I'm really working at it, and I'm still not getting enough. So I think for most of us, if you are just pushing for a little more protein, you're not going to get to the point where we have to worry about our kidneys. It would be hard to get to that level. For most of us, if you're, definitely good to pay attention to that and keep in mind. But it takes a lot of protein before it's going to affect our kidneys.
Is there something that can offset that, like like a driver or something like that you can take to allow that to absorb in or move through easier?
Well, you say I can. So I love that you brought that up, Deb, because I think that's probably the number one question that I've gotten over the years when I've talked to people about protein, is this idea that it is kidney toxic or can be. And of course, if you have any history of kidney disease or it is a concern, I mean, obviously getting some blood work, or I will tell you, I mean, with your history with cancer and I don't mean to share that publicly. I hope that's okay. But with your health history, that's going to be one of the number one things that you need to, just with your own autonomy, make sure that you're monitoring that. In the general population, especially with women, if we're sitting right around that 100 to 120 grams of protein a day, and especially if we're divvying that out in a responsible way throughout the day, and it's not just all in one lump meal where you're having a huge load on the kidney, most women are not going to have to be concerned about that. The one caveat to that is if you are prone to conditions like gout versus the actual kidney function tests. But if your body has a hard time processing uric acid, and if you're very aware of that if you do, gout is not something, or kidney stones would be another thing. Anyone that has a propensity for that. When Gina said, is there anything that you can do? I mean, the number one thing that you have to do is make sure that you're hydrating and making sure that your electrolytes are at a level that's healthy. Because if you're not, then quite honestly, I mean, any amount of food is just not going to be utilized efficiently, and your body's not going to be able to process that. So that would be the two caveats, basically. I mean, if you are concerned about it, kidney function tests are not expensive. Your doctor will order those for you. If you have a history, you need to be monitoring it no matter what. And then if you have a propensity for, kidney stones or gout or conditions like that, you just need to be hydrating. But I think that the potential risk of too much protein and being hard on the kidneys is far outweighed by the benefits of increasing protein intake for the vast majority of the public. So we're just chronically undernourished. So that's kind of my take.
Yeah.
And that is kind of the thing with everything that we read in a book. I mean, this is not medical advice. It is really a guideline for the general population. So obviously we're all individuals. We all have different challenges that we encounter health-wise. So obviously use your own best judgment. If there is doubt, as always, just talk to your doctor. Make sure you are staying on top of your concerns. This is really for just the general public, not taking any specific conditions into consideration.
Well, I hate to say this, but because this is kind of the dirty word, is AGE. You know, that affects this too. The older you are, the older you are, the more delicate your body becomes. And like you said, I mean, is this something, if you're going to do it, you got to stay on top of it and maybe discuss it with your doctor. And, because like I found out I was on a medication that I shouldn't have been on for probably 10 years when I went to a new doctor. So age makes a difference, really does. So, and I kind of got the feeling that this book was written maybe more for the 40s to 50s, maybe early 60s. That's kind of the feeling I got. I don't know if anybody else did, but I did. So I think we need to take it all into consideration.
Which is interesting since she worked in geriatrics.
I think maybe the feeling where it's focused on more 40s, 50s, and 60s is her 100% passion at earliest intervention as possible.
Right, right.
And appealing to that subset, so because those are the people that are, that generation are the people that are going to be making the next set of medical guidelines and changes going forward. I don't know that she necessarily, a lot of what she talks about is only appropriate necessarily for those ages. Because she does talk a lot about the potential digestive impact, and especially in part 3, when she actually talks about starting to increase protein, because it can be very hard on the digestive tract to start, and ways of going about that. Doing things more like, pre-digested proteins or increasing digestive enzymes while your body is kind of acclimating to the new environment. And trying, because there's protein, there's constipation, there's all kinds of, gassing and bloating that can happen with the digestive tract. But, and the older you get, the more pronounced that's gonna be. Just because of that, you're just not as efficient at digesting. So, yeah. I like that you brought that up.
And didn't you say add gradually? I mean, don't just bomb yourself with.
Oh, for sure. So we're going to talk about that. If you're sitting at 20 to 30 grams of protein a day and you increase to 120 grams just in one fell swoop, you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
And everyone around you is going to be miserable. Because the protein parts are real. Yeah. So that's no joke. So yes, I completely agree. Just like with everything though, you can't sustain it either. If all of a sudden you completely change your lifestyle overnight, so it's not sustainable. So.
And I think that is a good gateway to our next question.
Yes.
That goes right along with that. So how did the protein recommendation in part 2 land with you? Did you feel empowered, overwhelmed, or did you feel like some of it was controversial? So I know you shared part of what it goes into that.
To me, it wasn't new. It's just how you get there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can manage to get to about 85, 90 in a day. 120's a stretch.
Start at 100.
Yeah.
Shoot for 100 to start.
For me, it was an absolute wake-up call because I was just on an autopilot, like most of us spend much of our life. And in my 80s, my basal energy expenditure, which she talked about, is about 1,100 calories a day. So half of that needs to be protein. And I've always battled overweight problems, so I don't want to gain a lot either. So I'm finding that I don't have a big appetite in the morning, and if I miss that meal, there's no way in the world I'm going to get it all in. And I've resorted to trying some protein shakes, the commercial ones that are just everywhere now. And I really like them. I don't like the fact that there's some artificial sweetener in them, but it's only 150 calories and 30 grams of protein. And that's what I had for breakfast this morning. Otherwise, I would have just be drinking coffee till noon and, maybe having a sandwich that only had 15 grams of protein in it. And there you do, you blew the whole day, So the other thing I have done with the shakes is I bought one that was a flavor of lemon bar, and who doesn't like lemon bars? And I put it in, like, I have this thing I put in the freezer where you can put it in and it makes ice crystals, and it tastes like ice cream. It tastes like dessert. And the chocolate one you can heat up, if whey protein, you can heat it up and have a cup of hot chocolate before bed. And those I think are going to have to be in my menu planning, because I just don't eat that much anymore.
I'm with you. I'm the same way. I have my coffee. I'll get up at 4:30 in the morning sometimes, have a cup of coffee. Maybe I'll grab a granola bar, and then I don't eat till lunch. And so this is, and I'm one that grew up with my daughters, we had ground turkey all the time. We were not meat eaters. So it's huge. So thank you for sharing that, because I'm the same way. It's a little overwhelming, but we're doing it. We're doing it.
Should I talk?
Here you go. What do you gotta say?
And also your coffee dances making me nervous.
Well, the protein recommendations I thought were very interesting, and they equate directly to healthy muscle. And then it talked about how unhealthy muscle is a root cause of blood glucose management problems, which is huge, and I think it's beginning with me. So the other thing, though, I wanted maybe to share is that I have a friend who she just had a heart transplant, so it threw her into diabetes. So she has a monitor on her arm that she can read her readings on her phone. And it just really hit home, because she said if she eats a little bit of sugar, all she has to do is add some protein. And we watched it in real time.
Wow.
So we were together, and she was eating a little bit of sugar, and she goes, oh yeah, I gotta add a little protein. I said, it really works like that. And we saw it in real time.
Wow.
So what did she add to the sugar? Any kind of meat, any kind of protein.
Like almonds or something like that.
So almonds are
Peanut butter.
almonds and peanut butter would be more fat.
Yeah.
So
And
Like a
fat,
little chunk of
and
jerky, a little-
yeah, and I think fat works a little bit too, doesn't it? But
Fat
protein
will-
is
fat will
better.
work.
Yeah.
Fat will work too. Fat just has a lot higher calories.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it also
Yeah.
depends on the person, because some people fat also spikes their sugar. Like everybody's body's a little different.
Oh,
so.
So,
Kind of like you
but-
see someone drink a little bit of orange juice when they're going into a diabetic attack, have a little protein.
yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's important. I think
Yeah.
protein's important. I'm going to try to increase it too, because I'm not a real super meat lover, but and especially red meat. They said that, the red meat is better. So, got to change out some chicken and some
It's
fish.
been so long that they say red meat isn't good, right?
Yes. So, things change.
But I saw a chart where it listed all the different meats and stuff.
And I was surprised, and maybe this chart wasn't correct, but it said that chicken had more protein in it than beef does.
It does. It just doesn't have what her point with the
amino acids.
Yeah.
Okay.
The pre-specific amino acids. So, but you're
Okay.
right. Per gram,
Okay.
chicken is more concentrated with protein.
Yeah.
Her point was just with beef. Just don't demonize it. Just make sure you're getting it, because it does have.
So if you were eating chicken and you wanted to add the aminos, then what could you?
You can do like a BCAA, a branched chain amino acid supplement. BCAA is what it's called.
Oh, okay.
It's known in the bodybuilder world, but it's actually very good for you. They're actually using BCAA supplementation in a lot of nursing homes now. Because a lot of people in nursing homes have a very hard time getting protein, adequate protein.
Yeah.
Very hard time.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Did
so
you
yeah,
want to say
that's
something?
that's one option too.
Do you want to say something?
Like until she makes me talk, I'm not gonna talk.
Well, the question was about protein and what you found interesting
Mm-hmm.
in the protein. And when I had a doctor that asked me, was doing a physical, and said, "Are you getting enough protein?" Yeah, I'm getting lots of protein. And then I heard I had to get 100 grams of protein, and I thought, 100 grams? Well, that seems like a lot, but I'm just going to check to see how much I'm getting. Well, I was only getting like 30 or 40 grams of protein in my diet. And so to be able to get that much protein, and then again having the amino acids, and reading all of that about the amino acids was kind of mind-boggling. But then the certain amino acids in certain proteins was kind of eye-opening, and I'm going back to eating more beef because it's better for you. But I have to do protein shakes or drink a protein supplement in order to get the protein that I need. I just don't find I get it. And I usually only eat 2 meals a day because I don't usually eat until around 11 and then eat at 5, or 5 or 6. So the protein helps increase that. And I've been getting mostly 75. Some days I get 100, but that's really pushing it with lots of shakes.
But
Lots
also
of
75 is better than 35.
Well, yeah, much
So-
better. But yeah, so this whole protein thing has been a real eye opener to me, and how, how it works with the muscles and the whole body. This book is just like amazing. It's kind of mind-boggling.
I was going to say, I think that the food quantity thing is so big, because as you age, at least for me, I eat half of what I used to eat. And I don't ever have a gargantuous feeling like I've got to have something to eat like I used to, And then if you eat too much, then I get a stomach ache. So it's, yeah. And so, and that's why I said the AGE thing is an issue. And there's nothing we can do about it.
I never feel really hungry.
No, I don't either.
I just eat because
It's
I'm
time
thinking
to
my
eat.
body tells me I probably should eat, but I don't feel hungry.
Yeah, yeah. And we were always told back in the day that, you shouldn't be eating unless you're hungry.
I would never eat.
Yeah. So I don't know.
And I think you just made a great point in that too, because I think everybody that we ask, are you getting enough protein? Like, we have a lot of conversations about protein here, if you noticed.
Well,
And
as vital as it is for muscle health, it's
Exactly.
just as much so for bone health.
Exactly. So a lot of the answers that we are getting is, oh yeah, I'm definitely getting enough protein. And it is because the conversation growing up, I think, for a lot of people has never been about protein. It's about the carbs and fat.
Right.
Protein has just kind of been on the back burner. Like, it's just a thing, but we don't really worry about it. So just like you said, you overestimated how much protein you're getting. And I think it's just such a good conversation to be having. And everybody that hears, like, we need to have 100 grams, they're all like, what are you talking about? Because it seems like a lot. And initially it can, personally for me, like, it's like an everyday thing. I have to remind myself at every meal, where can I add a little bit more protein? It feels kind of like a full-time job initially. It gets easier over time, but especially when you're really low initially, it can seem very overwhelming.
Where does whey protein fit into this? I mean,
It's
dairy.
It's a great source of
Yeah,
protein.
it's
It's
probably the
easily
best.
digestible, as long as you can tolerate dairy products. Mm-hmm.
So if you think about curds and whey, you have the Little Miss Muffets have, curd. That's legit though, because curds and whey are the 2 protein sources out of milk, out of dairy. And curds is essentially casein protein, which is what hard dairy is. So anything that's hard, cheeses, cottage cheese, that kind of stuff, that's a casein protein.
ice
Tends
cream?
to- ice cream is liquid. Ice cream is liquid, you hard when it's frozen. But anything that's liquid is right. So is a whey protein. Tends to be a little bit easier to digest, but it's a great source of protein if you're very tolerant. So
And as someone who isn't dairy tolerant, I think also getting that protein, I also have to rely on protein shakes. But maybe not on purpose, but on Friday I maybe did an experiment where I really carb loaded, actually. I maybe had too many sweet potato chips, but I didn't have as much protein, and I could tell the difference within a few hours. Like my body was not functioning the same. So it is really interesting, like once you kind of get up to that level, and when you don't have it, your body goes, what are you doing? And I was hungry. I was hungry, I was crabby, I didn't have the same energy, my focus was gone, and I was like, and I couldn't actually catch up on being full. Where like if I would have just had my lunch when I should have had my lunch, then I usually am full longer. So it's interesting how that works.
I'm glad you talked about the amino acids. I started taking an amino acid complex supplement maybe about 6 months ago because I knew I was missing probably some of the essentials. And just taking one capsule with my meal also was noticeable in my body function. It was quite profound. So it might be, if you're struggling to get enough protein, that might be a thing to do.
Oh, that's great. Yes, all right. Well, I think we all got to share some. Sorry,
Just
go
something
ahead.
real quick.
Yes.
This on page 126 is this chart that she has, and she talks about the 3 key amino acids and what foods have them. And like chicken, beef, pork, turkey, and tuna are in the middle. They have all 3 of those. So that was really helpful for me to see the amino acid protein combination.
It is
there.
helpful.
Yeah.
To see that. I had to start out.
That's easier too, then it's like, you can focus there.
Right. Focus there.
This right here is helpful.
Oh, yes. Plant protein versus animal protein. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so we will head over to the next question. So which nutrition idea, so not necessarily just about the protein, but she talked about several different nutrition ideas, which one of those felt most realistic for your current season of life?
Say that again.
Which nutrition idea felt most realistic for your current season of life?
My nutrition idea, like
So she had talked about several.
protein, carbohydrates, fats.
Yes, so she talked about some pointers about each one of the macros. So, for example, what I thought was really interesting was the fact that you can actually prepare some things ahead of time and put them in the fridge, and that will actually change the starch in it. So I felt that's something really, really smart. And I mean, a lot of people try to kind of meal prep anyway. So there is another really big advantage of doing that. And we can all prepare something the night before, put it in the fridge, and then we have a lot more resistant starches for our meal the very next day.
Does the resistant starch, what I've heard is when you create the when you create the resistant starch by refrigerating the food, like maybe you make potatoes and you refrigerate them, and it creates the resistant starch. But then the resistant starch behaves like a fiber, as opposed to because it resists digestion, so
Correct.
then it behaves like a fiber.
Correct.
I don't know, can you count that as fiber? Because if I have trouble, it's getting enough fiber.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that was fascinating to me. That was brand new to me. So I need to do a little more research into that. I was like, oh, this could be the next rabbit hole. But I think so. I think especially if you're somebody who has been not good at getting fiber, which I think is probably the vast majority of us, I think that we can take the leeway and do resistant starches or fiber when we're trying to make changes to improve that. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
My daughter, who's in college, does a lot of nutritional yeast in different things for that very reason, for the resistant starch. So she is just way more regular with bowel movements and stuff the more resistant starch she has. So she's taken it upon herself to figure out ways of getting that in her diet. But that was one thing, a conversation I want to have with her, is turning yeah, rice, potatoes, that kind of stuff, how
Yeah.
fascinating is that?
Yeah.
So that it does it for us, so, yeah.
And it's not something like we need to change the actual food. We don't need to buy a supplement. It's so simple. It's something you already eat, and all you do is you pop it in the fridge and let it cool, and boom, you have more fiber. It's like a magic trick.
Yeah, it's a little magic trick. I loved it. I loved that. So, yes, I think you can add that
But
to
be
your-
careful how much you eat because it can also cause the gas and bloating that
Yes.
that fiber does. Cause.
Water, water, water.
Water, water, water. That's exactly right.
I found the fat part to be super interesting too, just because I think we were all raised to, maybe not all of us, but in the 90s for sure, to fear fat. They, like the fat free, everything's better for you. No fat, but actually it's really good for you. It's good for your cholesterol. It's good for your heart. The right types of fat. But I found that part really interesting. Also, it justified all the olives and olive oil and avocado I'm eating. So it made me feel better.
On the topic of fat, she talks about leaning into polyunsaturated fats. So I've been trying to figure out where to get more polyunsaturated fats. It's not that easy. Like flaxseed, hemp seed, more seed types of foods have more polyunsaturated fats, but that's not entirely easy to do either. So any suggestions? I don't know if anybody uses flaxseed oil. I haven't tried that yet, but
I've tried it.
because if you look at like the profile on olive oil, it's a little bit of saturated, a little bit of polyunsaturated, a lot monounsaturated, and that's true with canola oil as well. So I was just trying to figure out now, how do you get more polyunsaturated
So
fats?
flaxseed oil actually
Yeah.
tastes delicious in like salad dressings.
You can also use
That's a
flax
good idea.
meal
Mm-hmm.
or get hemp hearts, things in the ground flax. Sometimes I put on top of a salad.
Mm-hmm.
It just blends right in. It's real easy to
Yeah.
use.
Chia seeds are also can be
Chia,
really good.
yeah.
And chia seeds actually have they're protein dense, polyunsaturated, and they also have a ton of fiber and omega-3 fatty acids. So it's kind of like a little superfood. But I do about 2 tablespoons of chia seeds in my morning smoothie.
Do you pre-soak that chia seed?
I don't. I probably should, but
Because I
don't.
once took a tablespoon of chia seeds and it just like expanded in my stomach. It was so uncomfortable.
And if you add them to anything and then let it sit, it coagulates. So
Yeah.
if you do like a smoothie with chia seeds, you need to drink it because it'll turn into a gelatinous.
Yeah.
But my daughter will do like a tablespoon in, she makes chia seed pudding. So she'll do some in like a Greek
Yeah.
yogurt overnight, and she loves that. So chia seeds are also good.
Basil seeds.
We ought to have
Basil
a
seeds are also good.
we ought to have a session with ideas for
Yeah, they're just like chia seeds, only
Yeah.
they don't have the lectins like chia seeds.
Yeah.
because chia seeds are great for calcium as well.
Yes. Yeah, basil seeds can be a little hard to find. So.
You have to do it online.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Pomegranate Market is about the only place I've ever seen, available, so.
That's what we do is basil seed, and we do it online. And
How do you use your basil seeds?
we usually do a mixture of basil seed with yogurt and stuff. It's this recipe that's on the package. So you mix your basil seed with some tap water. You let it sit until it gets, it's gelatinous. Is that what you?
Gelatinous. Yeah.
Gelatinous. And then you add yogurt, and you can add fruit and stuff like that. So, and it's a little extra protein. So yeah.
Not fascinated.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are some things that are quite versatile that you can just add to different things, and you get a bunch of different nutrients, protein and calcium and fiber.
I love toasted sesame seeds.
Mm.
And
That's a powerhouse.
great topic.
Okay, so back to the fat topic. I tried to do her 1-to-1. Okay, so calculate out your protein intake, calculate out then your carbohydrates 1-to-1. And so I did all that. And then I got down to, looking at how many calories I want to take in minus the protein and carbohydrates together. And it meant about 45 to 50% of what I eat needs to be fat. That was like, really? And fat's harder to digest too. But anyway.
It's so ironic, I think, that all the years my profession and our governmental regulations have just done in fat, and it is so important. And this book, I wish everybody on the planet was reading it, because what we've done to our population in terms of recommendations of how to eat, and how the manufactured food has taken the place of real cooking and things, it's pretty serious. And we're lucky that we're understanding, because I'm told it takes 15 to 20 years for people to change with what we really know is fact now. And now it's absolute upheaval in programs like Meals on Wheels and the school lunch program, where they've been so heavily carb and sweets loaded. And it's quite an exciting time, and here we are, so lucky.
Do you think we should go back more to like the pyramid?
Well, the food pyramid has been stood on its head. And I never agreed with the pyramid, because it started with, 9 to 11 servings of grain and cereals on the bottom. Well, Kellogg and Post did their job, with getting those regulations in. And no one can, when I've menu planned in long-term care, we did 3 to 4 grains, because that was all they needed for calories. And it was kind of interesting. Many facilities that I consulted with would just automatically serve bread and butter as an addition to the menu, when these people didn't need the calories, and a lot of time it wasn't needed. It was just wasted. What they needed was whole grains. And I guess why I worked so long was I saved those facilities a lot of money, saying you don't need all these grains. So life, a work in progress. Huh?
Wasn't the first part of this part so interesting? How she talked about how the government, I had that mic. Or just lean into. Should I lean into Catherine? I was wondering if I could lean into Catherine.
Marla's like, that's awkward. We'll save you from that. But that's the first part of this section was so interesting, because our dietary recommendations have never been about our bodily health, right? It's been about, we need to send the meat to the military. We need to do this. We need to save this ration. Like, so if you think about like our grandparents, how they were raised and their thoughts about food, none of it was actually about how the body worked. So you're right. It's very exciting that we now have research and people speaking out of like, this is actually how the body needs to work and what we need to prioritize. So,
but if you go back to the days when nobody could communicate, we just kind of instinctually knew how to feed ourselves, right?
Right.
Because we had to forage for food, and the number one thing that was like the number one thing that we made sure for winter is that we had meat.
Yeah.
We didn't make sure that we had refined grains, and we certainly didn't bleach our grains and process them to the point of when it wasn't even food anymore. So it wasn't really until we all of a sudden started having people tell us how we should be eating that we started getting dysfunctional thinking.
Watch the Alone series.
Prior to that, yeah.
Alone. I watched the Alone, and it's amazing. Like any amount of proteins, like, whoa, we got another week.
It was treated like gold.
Yeah, it's gold.
So,
Yeah.
I think the worst debacle that has been made in our food system was trans fats, partially hydrogenated oils, and that started in World War II to stabilize the fats for sending things off to war. And I'm really convinced that the use of trans fats has created the explosion in heart disease in our country. I hope I haven't told this story before, but I will. My husband was a big wine connoisseur and drank a lot of wine, a lot of other stuff too, but he was a good guy, don't get me wrong. And he worked out of our house. He had his own business. He was very healthy, a runner. But when our grandchildren started coming along, he quit drinking. He said if anything ever happened to them, he'd have to kill himself, you know, and if there was an automobile accident or something. So the first thing that happened was his cholesterol went through the roof. It was like in the very high 200s. And his HDL, which is supposedly the good one, was quite low. And I couldn't understand it because, I mean, this guy that would first thing in the morning go out and run a couple miles and didn't have the stress of a commute, and was just generally a very laid back human being. Well, come to find out, he loved wheat thins and he loved Oreos. Those were his snacks, and loaded with trans fats, partially hydrogenated on the label. And back in 1980 or so, Andrew Weil started talking about trans fats. He's the man who really got rid of them, I think, but it took a long time. We're talking probably 30 years before even any movement took place in that. And one day I came home from work myself, and my front foyer was loaded with these grocery bags full of food that had partially hydrogenated on the label. And my husband was furious. One of the cereals that he liked was Banana Nut Crunch, and it had partially hydrogenated on it. And I remember him being on the phone to General Mills saying, "What in the world are you doing putting partially hydrogenated in my cereal?" But so he had a young physician who had been in the Navy who wanted to put him on the statins, of course, and Bill refused when I told him, all it does is shut down your liver from making the cholesterol that your body needs, and the first thing to go is your testosterone. But anyway, I'm getting way off track now. So there was no more trans fats in our house, but that's how he was. He ate to live instead of live to eat, like I do. And so we were out in California with his brother and my sister-in-law, and going to steakhouses and eating Ben and Jerry's Chunky Monkey and eating all kinds of saturated fat. And this is probably a year or so after he got off trans fats. And when he went back to his doctor, which he was doing about every 4 months, I think, they had another lipid panel drawn, and his HDL had gone up. It was almost 90, and which made his cholesterol was still like 230, 240, but his ratio was just outstanding. And he said he was so disappointed at his doctor. He said he looked at that and he never said a thing. He said he didn't say, "How did I do it?" or anything. He said he just, he wanted to give me a drug. So it's important. We can't be stupid.
Thank you.
I think
Getting-
hyper-stress corn syrup also would go right there with the trans fats.
my
But
goodness.
most of those foods.
I'll
have
give
our
you another
combination.
story.
We'll just get back to basics, right? I mean, if all of our food comes out of a box, there's probably something that isn't very nutritious.
Right.
All right, so we have one more question, and I would love for everybody to answer that question. So what is one sentence that you are taking away with you from today's conversation? Out of all the things that we have talked about, what is one sentence that you are walking away with today? Mhm. What?
I got to leave
Oh,
early, so I thought I'd answer first.
Yes.
All this protein, talk and everything was very educational, but one thing I really appreciated in the book also was her little blurbs on our attitudes and our self-talk, and it was just very encouraging to me to get that encouragement and motivation to do some of the other things that she listed in the book.
Mine will be red meat is one of the best dietary muscle meat sources of iron and B vitamins. And I have a daughter that has low iron all the time. And again, they did not grow up with red meat as a source, really, periodic. So it's really interesting to me. I mean, that is just vitamin B alone, and iron, energy, all of it. So it's a new thing for me.
I agree with the mindset portion. You know, sometimes I wonder what I'm thinking, and I think we all have issues with, you know, whether we're being good to our body or we're just enjoying it, you know, enjoying life. And we do have to take responsibility for our actions, and you know, none of us will ever be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we can do better.
This is our vehicle. That's right. Yeah.
Boy, there's so much that can be taken from this. I think the protein is a primary focus area, and figuring out how to do it, and then getting the carbs down. I've been tracking since I started reading this book my carb to protein ratio, and she's saying 1-to-1, and I'm about 2-to-1, which isn't too bad because she was talking about examples that were even worse. But how to, you know, substitute for that carbohydrate that I take in. I try to do it with oatmeal or, you know, things that have fiber, but so I'm just continuing to stay motivated and trying to figure out how to give my body what it needs.
Yeah, I guess we haven't really, it's been mentioned, but just to give yourself a little grace in all of this too, because like the protein conversation and then adding in the carb ratio, like it is overwhelming. And I get to the point sometimes where I'm just like, oh, it's too much. I'm too frustrated. I just want to eat what I want to eat. But I think instead of trying to make it like, I have to get to 120 grams or, you know, like just do better than you did yesterday each day, or, you know, like make one better choice, or just give yourself a little grace. So I'm reminding myself, I'm entering it into the conversation to give yourself a little grace in taking all of this in. We're not going to be perfect right away.
Just be mindful.
Thank you for that. I need grace. We all do. But, you know, it's very interesting, this whole protein conversation. And I'm kind of inspired by you and checking and looking at my carb ratio and my fat ratio. I was never ever really good at doing diets and having to record everything and figure everything out. It's bad enough that I have to try to figure out my protein. So one step at a time.
Yes.
But yeah, it was just all over. It was just good conversation.
Yeah, the protein thing has been the biggest standout to me. But I find it interesting, you know, all the years that we were told that beef, you know, you needed to really limit the beef. And now you really need to have more beef. And beef is probably the most expensive thing you can buy. Where I can remember buying a pound of hamburger for 59 cents. Now it's, you know, $8-9 if you want the good quality hamburger. So that in itself is a challenge, because I still have a husband and he eats what I prepare for myself. And if he's going to do this thing, my goodness, we'll go bankrupt buying all this beef. So, I guess, I don't know. And I find it interesting too, because the beef farmers are really struggling with this because they're not selling as much as they used to. And so now we're told we need to be eating more beef.
My husband was just reading the heads of cattle or whatever have really gone down.
Yeah.
Because people aren't eating beef.
Yeah, well, they can't.
And that's huge important with the income because a small percentage of people
Yeah.
actually can
Afford
it.
it.
When you're talking
Yeah.
about single parenting or
Yeah.
elderly people
Yeah.
on a budget, right?
Yeah.
Because I was in that as well. And
Yeah.
I remember taking like one chicken breast and dividing it up between me and my daughters and choosing to get other things, which now I wish I could go back and put the priority on the things we actually needed, but the education isn't quite there, is it?
No.
So it's
But we, yeah. Right. And then Jan.
This is more of just a motivational point. The point is, we can't go back and make a brand new start, but we can start from now to make a brand new ending.
Yes.
Oh, I love
that.
Welcome to the first
All right.
day of the rest of your
And
life.
Jan didn't get to speak yet. All right, Miss Jan, here you go.
Yeah, well, and I think I was surprised actually to learn that, how important protein was. And the other thing was that beef is so good for you. But I mean, I grew up on a farm and we raised cattle and chickens. And so our diet was beef, pigs, chicken, and mostly beef. So, and so, so then for so long, like you say, you were told that beef was so bad for you, and so you kind of got away from that, and so now I'm trying to get it back into my diet again because I do
religions.
Yes, it is right.
Terminology too.
Right, yeah, exactly, but like you say, beef is so expensive. So
Think about the people in inner cities that don't
I
even
just want
have
to
that
say, just really
opportunity.
quick on the expensive beef.
So if you source it from a local farmer or contract with, go in and find 4 or 5 other people that also want beef, because first of all, it'll stay in a deep freeze for 2 or 3 years sometimes. 5. It is, seriously, you can get it for probably 20% or a quarter of the cost of what you're buying it at Walmart, Hy-Vee, or a commercial grocer. So, and you can do one fell swoop and then you've got it there. So that's what we do.
Find these outsourcing people.
You can just put a message on Facebook or ask somebody at a church or.
There used to be an active Facebook group for local farmers, but because there's a guy kind of up by Wild Water West, I know we've bought beef from.
If you ask at like the food co-op or venison is wonderful for you. Deer, venison, buffalo, all of those are wonderful for you. But if you can find, because you're eliminating like 4 of the middlemen. You're eliminating the stockyards, you're eliminating their commissions, and you're eliminating the processing and the shipping to get, and then the flash freezing, and then the packaging, and you're eliminating all of that, which eliminates the vast majority of the cost. So
Go in with family, like
go in
get
with other
some
families,
family
yeah.
members, and like share it.
A little ways, because I know down by Oak Point, there's also like a meat barn, which is a local farmer that also has their own processing as well that sells. So if you didn't want like a whole quarter of the beef, that might be another option too.
Or even just going to the meat locker.
Yeah.
And just shopping at the meat locker versus.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you
Because
want to know that you're getting a good quality.
yeah.
You're getting what you're paying for.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think the other important thing to remember, just like everything else, right, is like even if you're adding more beef, it's not like it's saying you need to eat beef 3 times a day, 7 days a week, right? So it's like it's swapping out one meal at a time. Like you don't have to do.
Dinner one day a week.
Yeah. Or yep. So there's small steps with that. So
It's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
Every step in the right direction is going to get you another step closer to your goal.
And it's never too late to start.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s.
I have one
80s,
thing to say.
Oh,
My mom
Yeah.
lived to be 97, and
So
she
we'll take
always
the last
said
few
when it
minutes
came
to
to
come.
Yeah.
eating,
Otherwise I make a comment about it.
Everything in moderation.
Everything, yeah.
Only 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Perfectly fine.
that's how I operate.
Just wanna have 4 a day.
The one thing.
Right. Just want to have 4 a day every day.
So the last thing I really liked about this is kind of what we had touched on was just taking a little time to figure out, like, not tracking your whole week, but track a day. Because if you can track one day, it gives you an idea, or your average day, because tracking is overwhelming, right? But if you can just look at a little bit of a time, that will help. So
Do you recommend Chronometer as an app?
yeah. Mhm.
You do have to pay for the app, but
Yeah.
that's what I use, and I've been using it for years.
You don't need this.
I'll give it.
So in the email that went out about the book club, we touched a little bit up on tracking. So we do have a few more minutes. I don't know if any of you came prepared to kind of track your protein for each day, or if you've done a little bit of work ahead of time. But we can write down just some of the things that we eat every day, and then you can actually just take your phone and Google how many grams of protein your meals actually have. And we don't have to necessarily track the whole day right away. I would recommend doing that, but maybe we'll start with one meal today and just focus on, I don't know, you're kind of eating a late breakfast, usually just a protein. So maybe, I don't know, we'll maybe pick dinner?
I know she mentioned she used a chronometer.
This is the name of the app.
Mm-hmm.
The app.
Yeah. So there are a lot of different tools. You can Google the content, or
I was a manager for a while, but my vision impairment makes me, as my sister says, I have the patience of a rattlesnake. It's so frustrated, I mean, like I can see your bodies, but I can't see your faces.
I'm gonna use that
And
one.
it's scary, I'm still driving, but
There it
I've
is,
been
isn't it? Yes.
20 years. So,
Jane, my youngest daughter, has the patience of a wasp. That's what we say on my house, but I
Oh.
think I might change that to a rattlesnake. So, although she stings like a wasp too, so.
And enjoy time with your nails.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. We have like 3 more minutes. Do we want to start maybe looking at, I don't know, your dinner and kind of seeing how much protein you're getting on a typical dinner?
What everybody has
So-
for supper.
So we'll,
We're sidetracked because
that's
I'm
okay.
getting these questions. And it's like, I didn't get these questions ahead of time, and I didn't get them last time either. And it's like, where are these things?
Sending those, where do you send them?
So they're going,
It's
they're
email.
in Karen's junk mail, and
Uh-huh.
I think often they probably
You
check
send them
your
to our
junk mail.
email?
Mhm.
Yeah.
If you don't get it, just ask.
Yes.
Ask us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, I didn't.
Judy, did you get the email
Okay.
welcoming you to the Age Strong workshop?
I don't see it either.
questions out ahead of
Yes,
Did I
we
send an
do.
email
So
to
that
you
way
to
you
sign
have a
up for
chance
it?
to kind of prepare.
Okay, so
For that as well.
Sarah, can you help look in junk folders, promotion folders?
Well, I could look.
Do we want to
Or
stop
you,
the
or
video?
yeah, because there's like a lot of different places these emails seem to end up.
So if they just move it to
Enjoy
their
since I
inbox,
say
if
that,
it's from junk mail to inbox, will that fix it? Or